All right, all right. Hello, all you sports fans out there in podcast land, and welcome once again to another edition of Babbling Brooks, your new favorite podcast, where I, your host Brooks, try to bring you some of today's sports news with just a little twist of my point of view. Hope everyone is having a great week so far. It's my Friday, so I'm feeling pretty good. Tired, but good. Just ate a little pizza. Been chilling, watching some YouTubes. Try to give y'all my thoughts on the past weekend's football action. The NFL divisional round playoffs. There were 8. Now there's 4. We'll talk about how we got there. This will be a football centric episode. Gonna save the basketball talk for tomorrow. Talk about all the big scoring games like Joel Embiid's 70 points, Cat 62 points in a loss to the Hornets, and just what's going on trade wise, all that good stuff. And talk about last night Hawks game. Honestly, I haven't even watched highlights. It was a late game, and I had to work early this morning, so I did not even attempt to watch that game. It didn't start till 10. I was like, man, I'm going to bed by 10, pretty much. Sometimes even earlier on work night. So I'm not trying to stay up till like midnight or later to watch us lose again. But we'll talk more about the Hawks tomorrow. This is a football episode. Other than I did want to briefly give, some quick thoughts. The Major League Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2024 was announced. It's was it Joe Meyer? I think it's how you say his name. Todd Helton, the Twins. Meyer, Helton played with the Rockies, and Adrian Beltre with the Rangers and some other teams as well. And all of them are definitely deserving. But I am definitely, obviously, disappointed that Andrew Jones did not make it. Only got 61.6%. Y'all got to do better. Andrew Jones deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And some other highlights. Gary Sheffield, also a former Brave amongst other teams. Not much closer, but a little bit closer than Andrew Jones, 63.9%. He's involved in some of Michael Harris II's training coming up to the league. And Billy Wagner, not a Brave, as far as I know. This happened when I wasn't watching baseball. But as far as I know, not a Brave. He was from near my hometown, so we used to always read about him in the paper whenever he first went up there with the Astros. And he almost got in. Almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, as they say. But 73.8%, so not too far off. But congratulations to the guys that did go in. But like I said, let's talk about some football. And of course, I was right. All but one of the games were one-score games. They were all very close. So I didn't expect a lot of blowouts. And there was one blowout, but it started out close for a second. I was like, man, after the Texans were able to have that return for the kick return for a touchdown, what's his name? Steven Sims, 67-yard punt return to tie the game up. 4 minutes left in the first half. That's how we went to the half of this game. 10-10. C.J. Stroud wasn't doing a lot, but he was still in it. The defense, Lamar Jackson was getting blitzed, getting pressured, and it took him a second to adjust to it, but he came out in the second half. Apparently, he lit into his teammates. Probably himself, too. It was an expletive-filled speech. Hey, it's good to have passion. You're not going to win without that passion, man. And Lamar Jackson has it. I still believe it. It's going to be tough. The Chiefs, what they're looking like right now, looking like they're really starting to hit on all cylinders. But we'll talk about that. We're going to save that for the preview. Like I said, the Ravens, this 10-10 at halftime. They're at home. You're kind of like, wait, what's going on here? Lamar Jackson's not looking quite like Lamar Jackson. Still had some good plays. You did have they had one touchdown in the first half. Nelson Aguilar, formerly of the Eagles, got that 3-yard pass. And that looked like they were going to kind of run away with it, despite him dealing with some of that pressure. But then the Texans, man, kind of evened it up there. But it was not going to last long. Early on in the third quarter, Lamar Jackson runs one in for 15 yards. Then Isaiah Likely, who has had a huge season stepping up, the rookie tight end, in the wake of the Mark Andrews injury. Maybe it's possible he comes back. Obviously, that's been a favorite target of Lamar Jackson over the years. If he comes back, that's great. But Isaiah Likely showing like, hey, we're all right too. I can do it. And that was one of those like you've got mossed type catches that they'll show on ESPN. Like it was a nice catch. Like it was just reaching out, making a strong catch, like grabbing the ball pretty much. Like it could have been anybody's ball. So that's good to see Lamar Jackson's got that kind of trust in his rookie tight end. And then Lamar Jackson ran another one in, finished it off. Justin Tucker hits a 43-yard field goal, and that would be the final score, 34-10. So, like C.J. Stroud coming back down to earth, but still an incredible season for C.J. Stroud and DeMarco Ryans in both of their first year as a head coach and a quarterback in the NFL. They had a big playoff win, and, you got drubbed a little bit in the second half. But they put up a fight. And Lamar Jackson, that's a man on a mission. And, like, the way he, having that offensive coordinator formerly at Georgia, showing why he's getting some head coaching interviews. Because he seems like he's unlocked something that can help and has helped take Lamar Jackson to another level this season. Like, definitely, I don't know how anyone else could win the most valuable player award. Y'all remember a few weeks ago, it was the Niners taking on the Ravens, and like, oh, Brock Purdy could be MVP in that game. And I still think Brock Purdy's a hell of a player. And maybe if it wasn't a Lamar Jackson, he could be considered MVP. But the way Lamar Jackson outshone him in that contest in particular, and the fact that Lamar Jackson, excuse me, has been doing it week in and week out all year, Lamar Jackson is the NFL's most valuable player, and it's not close. And he's, no matter what happens this upcoming week, and honestly, I think we're going to keep doing it. We'll talk more about that, and maybe I'll see if I change my mind by the time I do a preview in 2 days. But what a win. What a win for the Ravens. The only game out of the 4 games this weekend that wasn't close. And it was close for about half the game. Packers and 49ers. Jordan Love doesn't, make a mistake, like a mental error, throw that ball where he shouldn't throw it, get a little too risky. When, if he doesn't throw that interception, they can probably, be able to get get a field goal, send that game into overtime, and that's just like reset, just starting over. Like anybody can win at that point. Because the Niners, Deebo Samuel not able to play in this one. They still get the win. McCaffrey, he runs 2 in. George Kittle catching one early in the game for the first touchdown of the game. But they had to fight for this one. I mean, they were down 4 points heading in, or they were down 7 heading in to the fourth quarter. Then they were down, the very beginning of the quarter, they got the field goal. The first time, how about this? The first time in Kyle Shanahan's tenure as a head coach in the NFL with the Niners, this is the first win he's got when down by 5 points or more heading into the final frame. Now he is 1-30. So it's wild to think it took him that long. It's not like a big comeback, but that's the first comeback for Kyle Shanahan as a head coach, pretty much. So good for him, good for the Niners. And I like the Niners, but it feels like they're gonna need Deebo Samuel to be healthy. But McCaffrey did his thing. He almost got 100 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, like we said before. Kittle with 81 yards and a touchdown. But the key stat, Jordan Love had 2 touchdowns, but he also threw 2 interceptions. But if you're a Packer fan, you feel pretty good about this game in a lot of ways. Because not a lot of people would have given the Packers a chance this year to be only a couple bad plays away, potentially, from being in the NFC Championship game. In Jordan Love's first full season as a starter, like showing like, hey man, this kid's legit. Looks like, he made a mistake. His last play of the, was it Rich Eisen said it's sad his last throw of the season was his worst throw of the season. But he's basically a rookie. Yeah, he's been around, so he's been absorbing knowledge. But, is that when it comes to playing, especially for a full season, this is his first one. And the Packers, I saw a couple different places. I don't remember the exact numbers. But they are, if not the youngest, one of the youngest teams that was in this year's playoffs. Obviously, probably the Texans be younger, but even they probably got some veterans on defense and stuff. Got a lot of young players on this Packers team. Doubs, Romeo Doubs, his lead receiver, 4 catches for 83 yards. So not shabby. They definitely got something to build on. But Niners coming through. Jake Moody with 52-yard field goal. And then Christian McCaffrey with what turns into the game-winning touchdown. Even though really it was the interception that won the game. But they couldn't have got that without Christian McCaffrey's 6-yard touchdown run with 1:07 left. But then for a second, I was getting worried. I was like, man, I don't want to see the Packers go to the next round. I want to see the Niners. But the Niners making it happen. Barely. Like, just by the skin of their teeth. As they say. I didn't stop saying this. Like the third time I've said it. In 11 minutes. So that was Saturday's games. One blowout that was close for 2 quarters. And then a game that was, close the whole way. The Niners, their first comeback. Very back and forth game. That third quarter almost won it for the Packers. Couldn't do shit in the fourth. But how about Sunday? What happened on Sunday? The Lions. Everybody was like, can Detroit do it? Get another win. Get another big win at home. The answer is yes, they damn can. Or Dan Campbell can. And what a job he's done turning that franchise away. Credit to the owners for making the right hire and giving him time to build a culture and let the results come. Because at first kind of sucked first season. But, it wasn't going to be, Rome wasn't built in a day, allegedly. But big win for the Lions. Came down to the end. The Bucks, some people thought they could have used that last time out. Been able to maybe put up some sort of a Hail Mary attempt. But, better season than they expected. People didn't expect much from Baker Mayfield after the Browns traded him. The Panthers let him go. The Rams were like, yeah, we don't want to bring you back. They got Matthew Stafford. You can't really blame them. But the Bucks, took a chance on him. And apparently, Dave Canales, their offensive coordinator, is, quote, a serious candidate for the Carolina Panthers head coaching job. You look at what Baker did this year, career high in his completion percentage. Had some pretty good numbers, and some of that was Baker being like that chip on his shoulder that he has. But maybe some of this OC, so that's something to look at. But Baker, even though he lost this game, he threw for 349 yards and 3 touchdowns. Mike Evans had 147 yards and a touchdown. Probably should have had another one, dropped one. But still, big game for him. But the problem is, Baker had them 3 TDs, but he also threw 2 INTs. Jared Goff, 2 touchdowns, but no 0 interceptions. He had some help. How about Amon St. Brown? That dude can ball. He's got hands. 8 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. Not huge numbers, but man, every one of those counted. He had some big catches coming through. With a godly name, playing like one. Jamar Gibbs, a rookie running back. 9 carries, turned into 74 yards and a touchdown. The Lions, man, what a year for the Lions. I'm actually rooting for the Lions. I thought I'd be rooting for the Niners. But I was like, man, I got to root for Marshall Mathers. So we need some Eminem make some songs. If they go to the Super Bowl, maybe at least Usher will let them show up. But it came down to the end though, 31-23. Amon St. Brown and that big touchdown pass there in the fourth quarter to pretty much clinch the game. Gibbs had the 31-yard run where he just broke free. That was a beautiful run. And that gave them the lead because this was a back and forth. They were just trading scores. 3-zip, 3-3, 10-3, 10-10, 17-10, 17-17. Just back and forth. This was some good damn football this weekend, y'all, for real. It was, tied going into the fourth quarter. That's what you want to see in the playoffs. But Jahmyr Gibbs, early on, just breaking free. The one touchdown lead. It was when Amon St. Brown caught that touchdown pass from Jared Goff. It was only 6:22 left. You felt pretty good if you're rooting for the Lions in this game. I was like, okay, I think we got it. Mike Evans still had a big touchdown catch. They got the 2-point conversion didn't work out, so they're still down by 8. But they could have tied it and had a chance to do a 2-point conversion. But time ran out. Detroit heads on. They'll go to Santa Clara to take on them 49ers. That'll be some fun football to watch as well. In the final game of playoff weekend for the NFL divisional round, for the third time in the last 4 seasons, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, and company, a.k.a. the Kansas City Chiefs, have sent Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills packing. And man, I was disappointed. I'm not even a Bills fan. I just want to see Griselda in the Super Bowl. I want to hear the song that Benny and Westside and Conway make when the fucking Buffalo Bills go to the damn Super Bowl. That's what we need. That's what I want, at least. I would think it would be great. And speaking of Griselda, Benny the Butcher, only 3 days away, that major label debut. Not everyone can go. Singles have been far. And I'm looking forward to hearing the whole project. But, it would have been cooler hearing a new Benny. Like a day before, 2 days before, the Buffalo Bills play in the conference championship game. This felt like their year. But I did mention I was a little worried about the fact they hadn't lost. Like they had such a long winning streak. It's tough to maintain that. Week after week after week. Especially when you're playing one of the best damn teams in football. They've already, won last year, won a couple years before that. Like Patrick Mahomes has now, this will be every single year that he has been a starting quarterback in the NFL. Because his first year, remember, he sat behind Alex Smith. But he's never in his career as a starting quarterback in the NFL, never has Patrick Mahomes ever not been in the conference championship game of the AFC. Think about that. What a start to a career. It feels like this guy's going to surpass Brady as the GOAT, if he hadn't already. I mean, obviously, ring-wise, he hadn't. But he's, I don't know, man. It's pretty special to see. And the Chiefs, a team that a lot of people were doubting. There's not been their usual season you would see from this Chiefs team coming off a championship. Like it wasn't quite clicking. Weren't able to get the ball running right. But Pacheco, man, having a game. Patrick Mahomes doing what needs to be done. Stephon Diggs not catching enough passes. That was kind of disappointing. There was especially like once where Josh Allen made a pass that you did not think he should be able to make. Like it was just like an insane pass. Like the distance. Getting it right to him, and Diggs still not able to bring it in. Kind of a rough game. What he had, only 21 yards, 3 catches. Like normally he's going to get more of that. Was it 8 targets? But I don't know, man. Josh Allen, you got to agree with him. The window's still not closed. I mean, the game would have gone to overtime, more than likely, if that kick by Tyler Bass doesn't go wide right. But I really respect Josh Allen being like, it'd be easy. But yeah, the field goal go in. But hey, man, I shouldn't have put him in that position. The drive stalled out. Like I failed. And man, they're really damn good team. But you got to think there's some changes going to come in Buffalo for another disappointing playoff loss like that. And like I said, it came down to the wire. Like that field goal would have tied it. It was 27-24, ends up being the final. And it was another one of those back and forth. They traded field goals to start out. Then the Bills are up, and then the Chiefs right. 3 minutes left in the first half. Travis Kelce, who was it like 8 games without a touchdown catch, which is insane. The best tight end in football didn't get a touchdown catch from the best quarterback in football. For like 8 games, they weren't like their offense was not clicking. But Kelce, his famous girlfriend, y'all may have heard of, Taylor Swift, she was there wearing a jacket made by the wife of a fullback whose name I can't pronounce, Kyle J, with the 49ers. His wife, I guess, does some like clothing design. She took a couple Chiefs jerseys and turned it into this Taylor Swift coat. So Taylor was balling out in that, and she's happy. She's having a great time watching her man. And then Jason Kelce, that man's brother, was having a pretty damn good time too. When people said he was retired, he's like, "Hey, I haven't decided yet, y'all. Chill." He was shirtless. Apparently, his daughter like texted his mom and was like, or said to his mom that Daddy's boobs are out. He was having a great time. He even jumped out of the suite. It was one of those open air suites, like the one David Tepper threw his drink out of, kind of. And he jumped down in there with the crowd, man. And I kind of thought it was cool that Patrick Mahomes was like giving credit to the fans, being like, "Hey, man, this is a great environment. This is what football's supposed to be." But he was a man on a mission. We're talking about Lamar Jackson, been a man on a mission all year. People say he didn't deserve that money. You think, watch this. Patrick Mahomes, people like, Patrick Mahomes has never played in the playoffs on the road. Can he win? I said it. Everybody said it. It was a talking point. Patrick Mahomes took that talking point, turned it sideways, and shoved it up all of our candy asses. He's like, yeah, I can win anywhere. I'm him, or one of the hims. Because, Lamar Jackson's kind of him too. But, the overall trajectory of Patrick Mahomes' career, he's had that playoff success. He's won 2 Super Bowls, going to win more. Lamar Jackson maybe gets his first one. I don't know, leaning towards I don't know if it's what I'll predict, but what I feel like I'm leaning towards wanting to see a Baltimore-Detroit Super Bowl. I'd fuck with that, wouldn't you? Lamar Jackson versus Jared Goff. Could be some fun stuff. But man, I was disappointed though for Bills fans, for the players, for myself, because I was rooting for the Bills. And it's not that I have anything against Kansas City, but I was like, I wanted to see something different, I want to see Buffalo finally beat them, because it just feels like every year Patrick Mahomes is sending Josh Allen home. And man, the Bills just beat them a few weeks ago. Patrick Mahomes at the end of that game let Josh Allen know how he felt about the officiating. He said, man, we got screwed. Probably something to that effect. They're buddies. And I think we'll see them battle some more. Maybe there's some changes on the coaching staff. Has Sean McDermott run out of time there? I kind of like Sean McDermott. He was our defensive coordinator. Took us Super Bowl 2015 down in Carolina. Speaking of Carolina, let's talk about the Panthers for the last few minutes. Going to kind of mostly wing it. We see the Panthers did. I meant to mention this earlier. The Carolina Panthers have hired themselves a general manager. They promoted Dan Morgan, which would have been surprising before, but there was a lot of rumors this is where they were leading. After interviewing all these different people from around the league, he's like, hey, how about this guy that's down the hall? And I have mixed emotions about this pick by David Tepper. And apparently it's some firm. It's of course him and his wife. I'm like, yeah, y'all don't need to be making football decisions. Neither one of y'all. It shows. So yeah, them two and a couple other. Well, I can't remember the other people. There's this firm that he had hired, and then Jim Caldwell is a part of that. He was of course one of the many coaches on special. He was a special assistant on the overloaded Frank Reich staff, which I thought was a dream staff. I thought was a great coaching staff, but too many cooks in the kitchen apparently. And you think that you want to get rid of all these cooks. This team's not been good. So that's where the mixed emotions come in. Because Number one, I love the fact that the Panthers hired a former Panther. Dan Morgan was a linebacker for the Panthers. I remember watching him. Would have had a longer career if he hadn't kept getting hurt. So eventually he had to, step away from playing, step off the field, did some scouting. He's worked with Seattle for a few years under Scott Fitterer, of course, the GM that we just fired. Worked with him there very closely. And then also with a former Panther front office guy, Brandon Beane. Worked with him a few years up there in Buffalo. And came back here, Scott Fitterer with the Panthers. He was the assistant GM. And that's where the concern comes in. Because from what we know, Dan Morgan seemed to have a big influence on decisions being made by Scott Fitterer and his Carolina Panthers team. So why, if we agree Scott Fitterer got it wrong, do we really want the guy that helped him make those wrong decisions? So I love the fact he's a former Panther. That's great to me. But you kind of worry that, it's just Tepper hiring someone he's familiar with, and, maybe he just keeps doing these Tepper things that just making the Panthers look kind of ridiculous. So that's where the concern comes in. Is you feel like as bad as things were this year, only 2 wins, 2-15 on the season, like you think you'd want to reset, especially the front office. With we all have talked about Scott Fitterer making terrible decisions. I'm gonna try to be positive, and maybe he has not always agreed with Scott Fitterer. Maybe he has a different kind of voice, and maybe he can sort of get David Tepper to fuck off at some point, because that's what he's got to do. I know, hey, he's rich as hell, probably rich enough to get me kicked off Spotify if you heard this. But it's like, dude, you obviously don't know how to make football decisions. I don't either. I don't own a team, so I'm in no position to do it. But just try to be a little self-aware, dude. Step back. And maybe that's what he'll do. Maybe he'll trust Dan Morgan. And apparently they're leaning towards hiring somebody an assistant GM, to fill, of course, the role Dan Morgan had. To be a little bit different. They're wanting to get more of a analytics type guy. He's going to be the CEO of football. And this guy will be the COO, Chief Operating Officer. From what I've heard, probably going to be one of the people they interview, one of the finalists for the GM job. And Brant Tillis, who also was interviewed before they hired Scott Fitterer. He's the VP of football operations for the very successful Kansas City Chiefs. And almost feel like maybe he should have been hired to be the GM. So is he going to want to would he be open to taking a lesser role? This seems to be the preferred candidate. But, you have hey, you put me, I don't want to be second fiddle to nobody. But maybe these two people a team, so they'll figure it out. But, hopefully they get somebody like that. Because I think that would be good. Another voice in there that's not part of the David Tepper, Carolina Panthers bubble already. An outside voice will be good. And next up, now that we got a general manager, we got to hire a head coach. I did see that Ajiro Avero got a second interview. That we could, make up for the fact that we did not hire Steve Wilks. Part of me also worries that they're just trying to give him a second interview, so if he doesn't get another job, they can convince him to be the defensive coordinator for the offensive coach they're probably going to hire. It still feels like it's obvious. I'm going to say it any single time I talk about the Carolina Panthers head coaching search. They should have kept Steve Wilks. Should have done what Mark Davis did and listened to the damn players. Kept Antonio Pierce. The guy that his team wanted. David Tepper just ignored his players. And probably ends up driving Brian Burns away. It could be one of the things at least. But maybe it also helps that, trying to sign your linebacker defensive end to a new deal. Maybe the fact you got a former linebacker for the same team. Maybe his voice a little better. Comes through a little clear. That's one thing I think could be good. Is the fact, even if he was Scott Fitterer's assistant, Fitterer was the one with making the final decisions, and Fitterer did not have, he wasn't a player. He did not play in the NFL. not necessarily his fault, but maybe that can give Dan Morgan a boost. From what like I mentioned before, Dave Canales, who was the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we hate, not him, but the team, but he's a serious contender. And at first, I think just because same reason, sort of like with the Saints, I don't sometimes I guess it's good if we can take a good coach from a team in the division, but also there's part of me just the rivalries makes me not like anybody on the staffs. That's one reason I don't think they should hire Dan Quinn. Another reason is, he's not. I don't think he's a good head coach. Look at what happened with the Falcons. Yeah, they got the Super Bowl, but then they blew the biggest lead ever. Dallas fell apart at the end there. That can't help his candidacy. But one of the people, Dave Canales is sort of the lead guy. But there's also, Ejiro Evero. He had a second interview. I know Brian Callahan, who just got hired by the Titans from the Bengals staff. He got a second interview, and I can't remember the other guy. They can't really interview Ben Johnson in person and for almost another week at least. The coordinator for the Lions, and a lot of people think Washington's about to throw that check at him. And let's keep an eye on that. I'm kind of surprised Bobby Slovic hasn't really been, as far as I know, been interviewed. I'm wondering if part of that could be maybe because just C.J. Stroud is a totally different quarterback than Bryce Young, and they don't know if it'll translate. Dave Canales has worked with guys of different sizes. Of course, Russell Wilson, not a big guy. He was the quarterback coach, passing coordinator up there in Seattle. So he does have a connection. He was there when Dan Morgan was there as a scouting guy. And, that's 4 pretty good years of Russell Wilson, wrong sport. He averaged 3,700 yards a season. And then the big thing, though, is what he did last year. Geno Smith, having a career revitalizing year in a year when no one expected anything out of Geno Smith. When Russell Wilson left, no one thought that the Seahawks would be better than the Broncos. Nobody. But Geno Smith, and maybe he had some help from his quarterback coach. Usually that does help. A big part of success and failure of players in that position. So maybe he can do some good stuff. You look at Baker, we talked about he had that career high percentage this year. Maybe try to see if he can work some of that magic. We should have hired Steve Wilks. Not only did he not hire Steve Wilks, but he just hired the most boring ass white guy. I mean, I'm sorry, Frank Reich seems like a really nice dude. But I don't see how he could be inspiring. Nothing about him seems inspiring. He just seems like a replacement youth pastor. Matt Rule was the youth pastor. Now Frank Reich's the replacement. He just doesn't stir up that fire. Steve Wilks stirred up that fire. He almost took a terrible team to the playoffs after Matt Rule got fired. It should have gave him a damn chance. He could end up in the Super Bowl this year with these 49ers. So yeah. So maybe, but if Evero though, you hear a lot of the same qualities that he's, everybody talks about him being a leader of men. It doesn't seem to have drawn up the same passion, when it comes to people out being very outspoken about wanting him hired, like they did with Steve Wilks. But from what I've heard, the players liked him, and you got to give him credit. Our defense, our offense was terrible. Our defense gave us a chance most weeks. It's the usual Panther thing of they would wear out near the end and then start giving up big yards. Eventually, because you can only stop the other teams for so long. This is the NFL, best players in the world at American football, and you gotta have that little extra edge. And Evero, he despite only winning 2 games this year, that I said, that's more on the offense than the defense for sure. Because he even dealing with a lot of injuries throughout the year. And the fact that other teams were literally never behind against the Panthers. So when you're playing with a lead, you play a certain type of way. You play you're more likely to play at least kind of conservative. You're less likely to make big risks that lead to turnovers. And it makes it tough on the defense. But he had some top 5. Despite to deal with injuries and literally no support from the offense. So at the very least, I would be okay with keeping him around, even though I'm like, oh, we should get rid of everybody. But the defense stood up, and I wouldn't mind seeing a change, but I don't know who you're going to get that's going to be as good as him. And if that's the question is whether he'll be back as the DC or the head coach, because other teams are interested in him. And one other Panther news: Cam Newton says the only team he would come back and play for is his hometown team, the Atlanta Falcons. I kind of hope it doesn't happen. I don't know, man. I'd have because I feel like he'd go off and like beat the shit out of the Panthers at least twice. That's a whole other thing. I'm gonna get off here because I'm kind of tired, and I'm gonna use up all my voice. Gotta save some for tomorrow. But hey, like I said, it was a very exciting weekend of football, and Panthers made one decision. More to come. See what they do. It's hard to get too excited about the head coach search because. Look what David Tepper's done the last 2 times. Hired Frank Reich and he hired Matt Rule. And it's not really gotten us anywhere. Except for we lost Cam Newton for nothing. We lost Christian McCaffrey for a bundle of picks that did not include a first-round pick. We lost DJ Moore and next year's number 1 draft pick on top of the draft for Bryce Young, who I'm not ready to give up on. Not ready to give up on yet. And apparently that maybe is one big reason Dan Morgan ended up getting this job, because from what I've read, I should stop saying what I've heard because I haven't heard anything. I read it or I've seen it in a video. I guess I hear it on the video because there's audio comes with the video, but whatever. That he's been in on Bryce Young, all in from the start with Bryce Young. So he's still just like the Monkeys. And I'm a believer. He doesn't want to leave Bryce Young yet. Blah, blah, blah. But hey, that's what I got for today. Hopefully you got a little blessed from that babble in some shape or form. Tomorrow will be an NBA-centric episode. We'll talk about the Hawks losing to the Kings and some head coaching stuff going on. AJ Griffin's dad got fired. So not a great year for the Griffins. Dad got fired. The son is out of the rotation with the Hawks for some reason that I don't understand. Maybe we should hire Adrian Griffin so AJ can actually get some damn playing time. But whatever. That's tomorrow. So tune in, subscribe on Spotify so you don't miss a babble, baby. But for now, this is Babbling Brooks signing all the way the F off. Peace out.